I'm assuming I'm live. Yes, I am. I had started to read chapter 18 of Harry Edwards' book Life in Spirit. This chapter is entitled The Place of Healing, but it is a very long chapter, and so this is now the second part. This is Life in Spirit, written by Harry Edwards, and it's an account of the afterlife according to Harry Edwards, and it was published in 1976. As I said, chapter 18, second part now, in the place of healing. By communicating through the mind to the computer brain, through directives could be registered within the brain more powerfully than the previous harmful mental impression, so that when the patient's minds become troubled, the brain would present to the mind a different view, and as this good influencing continued, it would submerge the fears, bring a happier outlook into the ascendant, thus enabling a complete recovery to be made. When a patient was deeply frustrated by the non-fulfillment of a desire, such as wanting a baby, to express an emotion in music more completely, or to wish to enter into the work or the church, or some other spiritual mission, there was the need to soften down the desire and to bring forward a substitute theme to engage the mind's attention. While it is not possible to quote percentages, said the guide, it is very clear that much disease has been prevented from developing by this substitution of mind directives, thus obviating the psychosomatic source of disease. Another aspect of mind upset is seen with retarded children, when the need to instill into them a sense of conscience, recognizing right from wrong, showing how the mind should coordinate with action. There is the need to soothe away the cause of allergies, to give comfort to the bereaved, to encourage new hopes for a good enterprise, and at times to provide the answers to a problem when this would lead to a general advantage. John and Mary were shown the importance and immensity of the healing mission, and the mental specialist concluded by stressing how welcome John and Mary would be when they come to join in this work. For as our work succeeds, so it is carrying out the divine plan to show mankind the way to take part in the spiritual progression of all souls. After a time of rest and retreat, their guide friend visited them for the last time. Before I take you to the last place, where one can earn the right to earn the highest order of a priest of God by becoming a guide, I would like to explain a little further the means by which so much healing is able to reach those on earth. This will explain my previous reference to the manner in which the production of blood cells, as in leukemia, takes place, and answer many other questions which arise from the pertinent question: how are the spirit doctors able to induce the beneficial changes in organic maladies? Note: the guide spoke of the importance of the interrelationship of spiritual healing with the bodily intelligence, and his words have been adapted as it were a lecture given to people at the present time. This should simplify the explanation without the need to constantly refer to the difference between earth and spirit life. Those who are not keenly interested in further explanation may turn to the next chapter. It's getting a bit dark, and it's just not light enough, so let me read this, what he says is presented like a lecture. This is not helping at all, because it's the wrong glasses. Never mind, I can read without glasses. Give me a little bit more light. Okay. It is a fact that nothing takes place by chance. There is a reasoned process behind every state of change in the universe. It is the same with our bodies. There is a reason for every change, even in the winking of an eyelid. What induces a wink? It can be the subconscious action to clear the fluid lubrication. It can be the spontaneous action to protect the eye from a strong light. It can come from instinctive fear when we are threatened, or from the noise of an explosion. It can be a purposeful wink, announcing a sense of humor. It is used to convey a flirtatious invitation, the glad eye. Or it can help to provide a sense of benevolent satisfaction. Demure people will lower their heads and eyelids, while those who are arrogant will keep their eyelids open in a menacing glare. Behind all these various forms of the wink is an intelligent purpose, even an instinctive one at times, of fear or mishap. In the human nervous system there are nerves which function subconsciously, like those which control digestion, register touch, and so on. They do not need direct instruction to fulfill their purpose, and are not governed by the computer brain. Apart from those nerves which function automatically, there are those nerves which do not work until they receive an instruction from the brain to carry out a given task. The purpose is to try to establish that there are other forms of intelligence apart from the brain, and that these other intelligences have a direct bearing on healing, and can be used by spirit as well as by the conscious mind when it knows how to do so. Every cell in our bodies has its own separate life. It possesses a purpose and has its own intelligence, which is influenced by the pituitary glandular system. The heart has its own nervous system and is responsive to mental frustrations. The principal intelligence apart from the conscious mind and brain is the bodily intelligence. The healing of a wound will illustrate how the bodily intelligence works. As soon as the wound is inflicted, an instruction goes to the heart to lower the blood pressure to minimize the bleeding. The ability of the blood to clot is accelerated. Orders produced to the spleen to empty its reservoir of blood into the circulation, and for the speeding up of the leukocytes. At the site of the wound, the tissues are damaged, the cells, nerves, and capillaries are torn apart. The wound is open to invasion by a host of disease germs. The intelligence is aware of the danger, and a constant supply of leukocytes, phagocytes, and macrophages is directed to the wound to devour the bacteria, to consume the dead cells and dispose of other debris. Lymph and plasma are released to keep the wound moist. Thus, we see the first phase of cleansing the wound and protecting the body from infection. Normally, the blood resists clotting, but within the wound it is given the ability to clot very quickly. Another constituent of the blood is the platelets, which bridge over the surface of the wound and are directed in a continuous supply until the need is satisfied. As the platelets settle, so they create a substance called thrombin, and from this comes a cottony substance called fibrin, which seals off the capillaries and plugs the open ends of the lymphatic ducts and capillaries to prevent the incursion into the body of harmful bacteria. From the capillaries, the leukocytes pour out to cleanse the wound of germs, waste, and contaminants. these leukocytes are assembled in their millions, and if the wound is very severe, orders proceed to the bone marrow to speed up their production to supply a constant flow of reinforcements. There are other intricate changes which take place in the preliminary actions before the actual healing process begins. The healing of a wound is like a campaign, requiring a commanding intelligence to organize and administer it. There is no direct contact between the wound itself and the bone marrow or with the supply of platelets. Regulation and control is essential, and this is a function of the bodily intelligence. The mechanism of the brain does not possess the initiative to give the specific order relative to the detailed needs of the wound. Neither does the mind. The directing intelligences, therefore, must be a faculty apart from the brain and the mind. All the preliminary processes to cleanse the wound and protect the body from infection proceed in an orderly manner. When the need for an excessive supply of leukocytes is over, then the production of them is adjusted. Otherwise, the blood content would become out of balance. To continue the story, a new component is created from the blood on the wound site, and it's called fibroblast. This acts as a kind of scaffolding and reinforcement. Fibroblast is a living substance which fills in over the surface of the wound, creating a patch. Very soon the patch strengthens and the fibrous trellis is no longer needed, and because there is no blood circulation in the wound, it is converted into nourishment to feed the cells. A constant supply of material is required to carry on the healing process. These materials are obtained from other parts of the body, where they can be best spared, and the demand becomes a matter of priorities. Tissues are broken down and changed into amino acids, and these materials are transported to the wound site, being taken from places where they can best be spared. From whence comes this direction? Obviously, not from the sufferer's mind. It must come from an inherent faculty that is knowledgeable of the body's potentials in order to select these places from where muscle tissue can best be taken without weakening the resources of the body. To say that this operation is just nature or instinct is an evasion. There must be a knowledgeable faculty to make a correct assessment, to determine the quality and quantity of materials needed, and to arrange their transport to the wound site. Therefore, there must exist a bodily intelligence to function in this way. Finally, there is the creation of granular tissue, with the marshalling of capillaries and nerve terminals, until they are directed to meet the other terminals and join up. Muscle fibers grow, meet, and are spliced together. New skin has to be formed under the scab by the skin cell elongating and stretching out until a fine covering is formed, following by the final reinforcement of the outer skin cells until a strong enough covering is formed. So the campaign proceeds in a most orderly and intelligent way until the wound is fully healed. All this surely represents a picture of constructive and engineering skill that dwarfs by comparison the planning and skill necessary to build a suspension bridge or a 20-storied block of apartments. Such achievements need a superior mind to design and clerk of works to interpret and carry out the plan. With the human body, it can surely be only the bodily intelligence. This proposal that we possess a bodily intelligence apart from the brain and glandular control is significant, for it will have an important bearing on the manner in which the spirit doctors are able to cooperate with the healing intention in the future. So, this was part 2 of chapter 18, and I am going to do a part 3 because it is very long and it is quite dark. Bye bye. Happy Monday night.